You're standing in a gas station bathroom just north of El Paso, scrubbing someone else's blood out of the cuff of your shirt, and you can't remember whose it is. That's the part you don't tell anyone. Not the therapist you stopped seeing 3 years ago. Not Briggs, who still thinks your hands shake from too much coffee. Not even yourself most days. The blood dries fast under the hot air from the hand dryer, turns brown at the edges, and you keep scrubbing because stopping means looking in the mirror. The mirror shows a man in a dark jacket with an FBI badge clipped to his belt. The mirror shows a federal agent who has been on the payroll of the Sinaloa-based Vargas organization for 4 years, 7 months, and 11 days. The mirror does not show you what you thought you'd become when you graduated 9th in your class at Quantico. You drive back to the field office in a Honda Civic that costs $32,000 but looks like it costs $16,000. That was the first rule you learned. Nothing that draws attention. Nothing that forces a secondary review of your financial disclosures. The car is 3 years old, beige, unremarkable in every way. The bank accounts are not. There's a savings account in the name of a dead cousin at a credit union in Las Cruces with $217,000. There's a safety deposit box at a Wells Fargo branch you've never walked into that holds $40,000 in hundreds and a Smith & Wesson with no serial number you've never fired. There's a storage unit outside Alamogordo with 80,000 rounds of ammunition, 14 kilos of cocaine you're supposed to testify about someday, and a ledger book that would put 12 men in federal prison for life. You are the only person who knows all 3 locations. You are also the person who made sure the ledger book exists in the first place. It started with $4,000. That's the number you come back to when you try to reconstruct the moment you became the thing you are now. $4,000 cash, in an envelope inside your gym bag at the El Paso County Sheriff's boxing gym. You remember opening the envelope in the locker room, alone, wearing hand wraps you hadn't taken off yet. You remember counting it twice. You remember sitting on the bench for a full 3 minutes with the money in your lap, not touching it, trying to feel something other than exhaustion. Your wife had left 9 months earlier, taken your daughter, and the court had ordered child support plus alimony that totaled $3,040 a month. Your take-home as a GS-12 Step 4 was $5,300 after taxes. The numbers didn't work. They hadn't worked since the divorce. Your savings account had $93. Your credit cards were maxed at $19,000. The transmission on your personal car had failed 2 weeks earlier, and the mechanic wanted $3,200 you didn't have. You'd been sleeping on a foam mattress on the floor of a 1-bedroom apartment that smelled like the previous tenant's cats. The orthodontist had called again about your daughter's braces. For $1,000. Affront. The man who put the envelope in your gym bag was named Eduardo. Just Eduardo. You'd seen him around the gym for months before he spoke to you. Big man, former amateur boxer, always wore gold-rimmed glasses that made him look like a retired professor. He waited until you lost a sparring match you should have won, waited until you were sitting on the ropes with your head down, and then he sat down next to you and asked if you wanted to make some money on the side. Nothing dangerous, he said. Just information. The kind of information you already had in your head already. Nothing you had to go find. Nothing you had to manufacture. Just a heads up now and then about which operations were real and which were distractions. Which informants were credible and which were fabricating. Which task force meetings you were walking into before you walked into them. You told him no. You told him no 3 separate times over 6 weeks. Each time Eduardo nodded, smiled, said he understood, and then asked if you'd thought about the orthodontist. The second time he mentioned the orthodontist, you felt something shift in your chest. Not greed, not fear, something worse. Recognition. The recognition that Eduardo had done his homework, that he knew about the braces, about the car, about the cat smell apartment, about everything. The recognition that he had calculated exactly how much pressure it would take and was applying it with surgical precision. The third time he mentioned the orthodontist, you didn't say no. You said, "What kind of information?" Not yes, not yet, but you'd already opened the door and you knew it and Eduardo knew it, and the two of you sat in silence for a long moment while the bag thudded against the heavy bags in the next room. The first piece of information you gave him was the date of a DEA sting operation in Las Cruces. Nothing that would get anyone killed. Just a date. Just a location. Enough for Eduardo's people to move their product 24 hours earlier and avoid the whole operation entirely. You told yourself you were saving lives. That's what you actually believed. If the DEA raid went forward and no one was there, no one would get shot. No low-level mules would catch felonies. No kids would lose their fathers. You were preventing violence. You were the reasonable one. You were keeping things calm. And Eduardo paid you $4,000 cash for a single date and a single address. The relief was immediate. You paid the orthodontist the next morning. You paid the mechanic that afternoon. You bought groceries for the first time in weeks without doing the math at the register. You slept through the night for the first time since the divorce. That's the part you don't see in the movies. The relief isn't guilt. The relief feels like finally being able to breathe. The relief feels like putting down a weight you didn't realize you'd been carrying. The relief is what gets you, not the money, the absence of pressure, the quiet. Briggs noticed something was wrong 3 months later. Briggs is your partner, has been your partner for 6 years, and is the best undercase agent in the El Paso field office. He's 41, divorced twice, no kids, lives alone in a townhouse he keeps so clean it looks like a real estate listing. He's the one who taught you how to run a confidential informant without burning them, how to read a wiretap application for weak spots, how to stay awake for 36 hours and still sound coherent in a debrief. He's also the one who buys you coffee every morning because he knows you forget to eat. He's the one who covered for you when you showed up late 3 times in 1 week after your daughter's school called about a fever. He's the one who never asked questions, never judged, never made you feel like less of an agent because your life was falling apart. Briggs is the best man you've ever known, and 3 months after the first envelope, he looked at you across the desk and said, "You seem different. You said you were sleeping better." He said, "No, that's not it." He didn't push. He never pushed. He just looked at you for a beat too long and then went back to the case file. But you saw it. The shift. The small crack of suspicion that would grow slowly, invisibly, until it became the thing that destroyed him. The second compromise came 6 weeks after the first. Eduardo asked for something bigger. A name. One of your confidential informants. A mid-level transporter named Marcus Talley, who was scheduled to testify before a federal grand jury in 2 weeks. Eduardo didn't say what he wanted the name for. He didn't have to. You gave him the name anyway, and you told yourself Marcus was a criminal, that Marcus had killed people, that Marcus deserved whatever was coming. You told yourself you were just the messenger. You told yourself Eduardo would have found out anyway. You told yourself so many things that you started to believe the noise instead of the silence. Marcus Talley was found in the trunk of a stolen sedan 3 days later. Shot twice in the back of the head. Execution style. You read the report on your phone while sitting in your car outside your daughter's school, waiting to pick her up from kindergarten. You read the report and you felt nothing. That was the moment you should have stopped. That was the moment you should have driven to the field office, walked into the SAC's office, and confessed everything. You didn't. You put the phone down, watched your daughter run toward the car with her backpack bouncing, and you felt nothing but the mild annoyance of a parent who just wanted to get home. That's the truth. That's the part you will never say out loud. Not the money, not the fear, the nothing. The escalation followed a pattern you now recognize as the same pattern in every corruption case you've ever worked. Small favors become medium favors, become large favors. The money increases. The stakes increase. The justifications become more elaborate and less believable. By the end of the first year, Eduardo had paid you $62,000. By the end of the second year, $210,000. By the end of the third year, you stopped counting. The information you provided had compromised 7 federal operations, resulted in the destruction of 97 kilos of seized evidence, and directly contributed to the deaths of at least 4 people. You know the number 4 because you've run the calculations. You've reconstructed every piece of information you passed, traced every consequence you could find, and arrived at 4 names. 4 human beings who are dead because of you. You also know there are more you'll never find. That's the math you do at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. Not the money, the bodies. Briggs started keeping a private notebook in the second year. You found out about it because he left it on his desk one night when he went to get coffee, and you read it in 30 seconds flat. The notebook contained 13 bullet points, all in Briggs's tiny, precise handwriting. Times you'd left the office without explanation. Wiretap affidavits you'd reviewed that later turned out to contain false information. Intelligence gaps that coincided with cartel movements. Nothing conclusive. Nothing that would stand up in court. But a pattern. Briggs saw the pattern before anyone else, and he wrote it down, and he never showed it to anyone because he wanted to believe he was wrong. That's what destroys you now. Not that Briggs caught you. That Briggs didn't want to catch you. That Briggs loved you enough to ignore his own instincts for 18 months. The confrontation happened on a Tuesday night in the parking lot of a Whataburger on Mesa Street. No drama. No shouting. Just Briggs sitting in the passenger seat of your car after a 16-hour surveillance shift. Both of you exhausted. Both of you hungry. Neither of you willing to go home. Briggs stared out the windshield at the neon sign and said, "I need you to tell me something." You asked what? He said, "I need you to tell me you're not working for them." You asked who? He turned to look at you, and you saw something you'd never seen in Briggs's face before. Fear. Not for himself. For you. The Vargas organization, he said. "I need you to tell me you're not on their payroll." You had a choice. You had a clear, unambiguous choice. Right there in the fluorescent glow of a fast food parking lot. Sitting next to the only person in the world who still believed you were good. You could tell him the truth. You could ask for his help. You could walk into the Saks office together, lay out everything, and accept whatever consequences came. Briggs would have helped you. You know he would have. He would have stood next to you while you confessed, would have testified to your character at whatever proceeding followed, would have visited you in whatever facility you ended up in. Briggs was that kind of man. The kind who believed in redemption because he believed in people. You looked at him and said, "You're paranoid." Briggs didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he nodded, got out of the car, and walked to his own vehicle without looking back. You watched him drive away, and you told yourself you'd protected him. That's what you actually believed. If Briggs knew, he'd have to act. If he acted, he'd be in danger. You were keeping him safe by lying to him. You were the good one. You were protecting your partner. The brain is a beautiful machine for manufacturing the exact story you need to hear. The collapse started 6 weeks later. A task force analyst named Diane Hendricks, fresh from Quantico, built a traffic pattern analysis that showed your vehicle visiting the same storage unit outside Alamogordo 17 times in 14 months. Not conclusive, not evidence, but enough for the Office of Professional Responsibility to open a preliminary inquiry. You didn't know about the inquiry until Briggs told you. He pulled you into an empty interview room 3 days after the Whataburger conversation, closed the door and said, "They're looking at you." You asked who? He said, "OPR. They're asking questions about your financials, about the storage unit, about your movements." You asked why he was telling you. He looked at you for a long time. "Because I still don't want it to be true," he said. "But I need you to understand. If it is true, you need to stop. Right now. Today. Before they find something they can't ignore." You didn't stop. You couldn't stop. Eduardo had made that clear. The month before, you tried to walk away. You told Eduardo you were done, that you wouldn't pass any more information, that you wanted out. Eduardo had smiled his professor smile and said, "You think this is a job? You think you can quit?" He'd pulled out his phone and shown you photographs of your daughter's school, of your ex-wife's house, of your mother's assisted living facility in Albuquerque. He hadn't threatened. He'd just shown you the photographs and waited. You understood immediately. There was no walking away. There was only the slow, grinding realization that you'd traded one kind of pressure for another, and the new pressure had teeth. Briggs went to the OPR investigators on his own. You didn't know he'd done it until after. He walked into their temporary office in the federal building, sat down across from 2 investigators he'd never met, and told them you were his partner, that he'd known you for 6 years, that he didn't believe you were corrupt. He told them about the times you'd stayed late, the cases you'd worked, the informants you'd cultivated. He told them you were a good agent who'd been through a hard divorce and maybe made some mistakes but nothing criminal. He told them to look somewhere else. He vouched for you. He put his reputation on the line for you, and then he drove to your apartment that night and told you what he'd done, and you watched his face as he explained it, and you felt something you hadn't felt in years. Shame. Real shame. The kind that doesn't come from getting caught. The kind that comes from watching someone good destroy themselves for someone who doesn't deserve it. You should have told him then. You should have fallen to your knees in your own cat smell apartment and confessed everything. You didn't. You let him vouch for you. You let him lie to federal investigators for you. You let him burn his own credibility for a partner who was already gone. The end came on a Thursday. You don't remember the date because you've tried to forget it, but you remember the temperature. 94 degrees. The kind of dry heat that feels like an oven door left open. You were in a task force briefing when your phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. 3 words. Briggs. Tonight. You excused yourself to the bathroom and called Eduardo. He answered on the first ring. He told you that the OPR investigators had interviewed one of Eduardo's lieutenants the day before, a man who had no loyalty and less sense, and that the lieutenant had mentioned your name, not as a source, just as an agent he'd seen in places he shouldn't have been. Eduardo said the OPR investigators were planning to interview Briggs again in the morning, and this time they'd bring evidence. Eduardo said they needed to make sure Briggs didn't talk to them. Eduardo said it like he was ordering coffee. Casual. Easy. Like he was asking you to pick up milk on the way home. You asked what he meant. He said, "You know what I mean." You asked if there was another way. He said, "There's always another way, but this is the way we're doing it." You asked what happened if you refused. He said, "Then I show the photographs to your ex-wife. Then I show them to your mother's nursing home. Then I show them to your daughter's school. And then I call the OPR myself and tell them everything you've done. And you go to federal prison for the rest of your life, and Briggs still dies anyway because he knows too much. So really, you're not choosing anything. You're just deciding how much your family suffers in the process. The split decision moment. The one you've replayed 10,000 times. You could have called Briggs. You could have warned him. You could have driven to his townhouse, pounded on the door, told him to run, told him to disappear, told him to take whatever he could carry and never look back. You could have done that. You had the time. You had the means. You had the knowledge. You did none of those things. You stood in the bathroom of the federal building with your phone in your hand, and you made a calculation. If you warned Briggs, Eduardo would know. If Eduardo knew, he'd kill your family. If you didn't warn Briggs, maybe Eduardo would let your family live. You made the calculation. You chose your daughter over your partner. And then you texted Eduardo back with 3 words of your own. No warning. Do it. Briggs was found in his townhouse the next morning. The official cause of death was a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. The unofficial cause of death was a man who'd been drugged, posed, and executed by professionals who knew exactly how to make a murder look like a suicide. You read the report. You attended the funeral. You stood next to Briggs's elderly mother and held her hand while she cried. You looked at the casket and felt nothing. Then you went home and sat in the dark for 6 hours and still felt nothing. Then you went to sleep. Then you woke up. Then you went back to work. That was 8 months ago. You are still at the El Paso field office. The OPR investigation closed due to lack of evidence. Diane Hendricks was reassigned to a field office in North Dakota. Eduardo still texts you sometimes, asking for information, and you still provide it because the photographs still exist and your daughter still goes to that school and your mother still lives in that facility and you have made your peace with the math. You are a federal agent on the cartel payroll. You have been for years. You will be until you die or until they kill you, and you have accepted that too. But there's a question you still haven't answered. You're not sure you ever will. You told Eduardo not to warn Briggs. You told him to do it. That's the fact. That's the evidence. But you think sometimes in the hours between 3 a.m. and dawn about whether you really made that choice or whether you just let it happen. Whether there's a difference. Whether Eduardo would have killed Briggs anyway even if you'd warned him. Whether you told yourself that story to survive. Whether the calculation you made was really a calculation or just the path of least resistance dressed up in fatherhood and fear. Whether you chose your daughter or whether you chose yourself. Whether you can tell the difference anymore. whether it matters. You're not the first person who made this calculation. You won't be the last. Right now, somewhere, someone else is doing the same math. Pressure on one side, principle on the other, and the answer comes easier than it should. That's the part they don't tell you in the academy. Not that the bad guys are monsters. That the good guys are just people who haven't been asked the right question yet. Or the wrong one, depending on how you look at it. You're standing in the kitchen of your apartment at 4:17 a.m. The coffee is cold in your hand. The badge is on the counter next to your keys. The phone is in your other hand, and the screen shows a text message from an unknown number. For words, "We need another favor." You read the message twice. You think about Briggs. You think about the photographs. You think about your daughter's face when she runs toward the car. Then you put the phone down and pick up the badge. You hold it for a long time. Then you put the badge down and pick up the phone. Your thumbs hover over the keyboard. You can still choose. You can always still choose. That's the lie you tell yourself at 4:17 a.m. when the coffee is cold and the apartment is quiet and the only sound is the refrigerator humming and the only witness is the man in the mirror who used to be someone else. You type 3 words. You don't even read them before you hit send.